Okay, in this video we are going to join two different pinch pot forms to start creating our object that we have designed. So this is a hollow shape. This is two pinch pots that I've put together. So it's hollow on the inside, and so is this one. This one I've just simply kind of gently patted into more of a teardrop shape. And I'm not sure what I'm going to make with it yet, but we're going to find out. So these are both hollow on the inside. Right now this would be a bad thing to put in the kiln because if you remember that air pockets that are enclosed are basically little kind of bombs waiting to go off. The air will escape by basically breaking your pottery. So we are going to make sure that we deal with that before the end. We are going to make sure that we give a place for the air to escape, but not right this second. So I'm going to figure out how I want to join these things. So if I look at these, kind of what do I see here? I did not pre-design these, but if I'm looking at this, I'm kind of seeing some sort of, I don't know, duck-like creature. So before I join them, I think I might shape this a little bit more like the back end of a duck by kind of shaping it into that form. Remember, you can kind of just gently tell the clay what shape you want it to be by patting it, pressing it, pushing it. So I'm kind of shaping it more to have a kind of a little upturned tail end. So a little bit more of a duck body. And then the head definitely does not look like a giant round ball like that. So I'm going to press kind of a beak shape. And whether or not this ends up looking like a duck at the end, I'm not sure, but this is why pre-planning is a little bit of a good idea. And you should have 3 designs by now, and you should have chosen one. But for my demos, I always like to kind of play around a little bit since I usually do so many of them. And not perfect, but we don't want to make this a 8-hour video, so let's say that's decent enough for now, kind of duck-esque. Maybe a little bit flatter on the head. Close enough. Okay. And it might be a bit of a large duck head for his little body, but we'll be creative with it. Okay, so I'm probably going to want to join it about there. I might want to flatten that a little bit so it sits kind of nicer. And my dog did not like that noise. He thinks somebody's at the door. So I am going to slip and score the 2 areas that I want to join. But actually, before I do that, I want to make sure that I am going to cut a hole. And the reason I'm doing that is because of those air pockets. I want to make sure that air has a place to escape before I join these, because if I don't do it now and I forget later on, this could be a duck without a head. His head would explode off of his body. So made a little bit of hole, not a huge one, because I want to still slip and score around it so it sticks onto the body. And I'm going to do a little bit of a matching hole here. It does not need to be huge at all. I probably even made that first hole a little bit bigger than it needed to be. And if the clay drops into the body, don't worry about it. Either you'll end up with a little bit of a rattle if the clay dries in there and you can't get it out, or later on you can get it out once we cut off the lid. So no worries, that one dropped in there. No big deal. Okay, so scoring. And I'll do it on the other piece. I would probably do that a little bit nicer if this was a piece that I was going to keep, but since I am doing this as a demo and not trying to make you guys watch this for a really long time, I'm doing it a little bit quickly. And adding my slip. Remember, you just dab it on. Dab it on. Again, maybe a little bit more precise than I'm doing it, since I'm doing it a little bit quickly. But actually, that's pretty good. Wipe off on the side. And remember to line up your pieces. And I gently but firmly press, and then I give it a wiggle to really get them to join. And if you can't get your finger in there, maybe I will use my fettling knife, or if you need you can use a paintbrush. If you need a paintbrush, ask your teacher if you can borrow one. Just make sure you wash it off when you're done. There are some paintbrushes by the sink area in one of the cabinets, but again, just make sure you clean it up when you're done. And you can just kind of use the paintbrush to wipe it off in the sides there. It's a nice little trick to get that excess from areas that are hard to get to. And his head's kind of looking like it's turned to the side. I kind of like that, so maybe I'm going to turn it even a little bit more. Gives him a little bit of character. I think that's kind of fun. And now I kind of have a little duck. I don't know if he's quite long enough or high enough, so I might need to play around with his body a little bit to make sure he meets the requirements. But then I'm basically going to start adding details. So earlier I sculpted kind of a funky, I don't know, chicken leg, turkey leg. I don't know if it meets this kind of sculpture anymore, but maybe it does. And maybe he's going to end up being kind of a monster. And I can put it to the outside of his body, maybe a little bit to the side. And then I would want to slip and score this on as well. If it's more of a hip, I would want to kind of blend it into his body. If it's more of a front leg, I'd still want to blend in the attachment area, but just kind of figure out where it's supposed to fit if it's an appendage like that. Eyes, I always think, are better if they're three-dimensional rather than just carved in. So usually I will roll like a sphere, and then usually I cut it in half. If you get a Crayola marker, that's a good little trick to use the cap to press in a half circle. I don't have one nearby, but I do have this wire tool, and I could use that loop end to give myself a little half circle, and I could score and slip that onto his face for a little eye. So just think about how you want to add the details and whatnot, but make sure you score and slip everything on for all of the appendages and details that you want to add. Don't forget you need some subtractive sculpture. Do you want texture? Do you want to add, maybe I want to draw a line for his beak. Remember, if you don't like it, you can erase it by rubbing your finger and making sure that it smooths out completely. I don't hate this so far, so I'm not going to erase it yet. And so anything that's carved or etched in could be your subtractive, but I think I would add some more things to him, maybe some texture here or something. But I would play around with him a bit and see what else I want to add to him. So there's some examples in the room where you can take a look. Remember, not all examples are good examples. The egg-shaped dude is an example of a bad lid, and I will show you that later on. The lid is the last thing we do, so do not worry about the lid. The lid is the last thing that we are going to do. Okay, so putting him together, adding the details, carving in the subtractive, and basically getting a kind of cool, funky sculpture put together. Just don't forget to make sure you get all the requirements, and again, don't worry about the lid until the end. Okay? So I'm going to kind of play around with this dude a little bit more. If I have something cool, I will show you at the end. Okay, if not, then you can look at the examples in the classroom. All right.